Welcome to your Friday edition of RFK Refugees. We've missed a couple weeks in a row, but thanks for sticking with us. So we've finally got a second episode of the week out for you. It's a special one. We've got Hal Hershfelt from the Washington Spirit with us. Hal, thanks for joining us.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I'm gonna compliment Hal on her extreme promptness. This is behind the scenes information. Hal beat me to the interview, which is a first for all Spirit players and all DC United players. So A plus for that. And believe it or not, this question was pre-written. I said ahead of time, you are really great with the media. I've noticed that. I was in the post-game conference after your first home game. Every interview I heard you do, I've been really impressed. You also mentioned in one of your interviews that you moved around a lot as a kid. I think these two things are correlated. Am I off base? Do you think that there's a big correlation between having to move around a lot and like make new friends and get reintegrated in, and then being able to like just be comfortable in your own skin and talk to anybody? What do you think?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like it's definitely made me more adaptable. I mean, don't get me wrong, the amount of media that we have is a lot more than I've ever been used to. But yeah, I feel like being adaptable is definitely a skill that I acquired from all that moving around. And yeah, if it helps in the interviews, it helps in the interviews.
It's like being an Army brat. I feel like those folks are always like anywhere you drop them in, you could drop them out of a plane in a new country and they'll yeah. make new friends. It's no problem.
For sure.
We can't bury the lead. I feel like that would be silly to do, particularly on this week. You got called in as an alternate for the Olympics roster, coming off of the back of a camp where you've never even gotten a call in at any level, at the junior level or anything else. And so that's kind of wild off the start. This whole season has to have felt like a whirlwind to you, but that definitely has to give you some whiplash.
Yes.
What are your thoughts coming this week now? Obviously you knew a little bit ahead of time, but how are you still feeling in this week? Because it's probably still kind of fresh.
I mean, it didn't hit me for a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. I was just like, wow. And then we started getting like the logistics and everything like that. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm literally going to Paris this summer with the national team. It's insane. And I'm so happy that a bunch of my teammates are going too. I feel like that'll help with familiar faces being there. So I'm excited for that for sure.
So obviously this is a new frontier for you. This is sort of like a really, from my perspective, I think anybody wants to be on the team. I think this is a good like first step into that environment. You're at a international tournament. You get to play in Paris. No one's wishing for, you're there to help the team get ready and prepare. What do you feel like as an alternate? What do you feel like you bring to that training environment? Is it having that energy and having that?
For sure. I definitely say like intensity. I mean, at the end of the day, like your alternate players, your practice players, like you want them to be testing your starting lineup and your final roster players as much as possible. And I feel like I do kind of bring that intensity with my game. And I feel like that could be helpful because, I mean, you just kind of want to help the team in any way that you can. So, yeah.
I wonder if there's like a fine line between intensity of a practice player and going into a tournament like, all right, be intense, but be very cautiously intense as a practice player, right?
I like that. Cautiously intense. Absolutely.
Right. There's like a perverse incentive there, obviously, but like...
There's a balance.
Right. Got to be a balance. I interviewed Croy a few weeks ago, and we talked about the level of confidence that she has. And, in both the draft night interview and then subsequently, she was basically certain that she was going to tear up the league in the way that she has, which is very cool and also very rare, I think, for a lot of young players. Your answers have always been really confident, but also maybe a little bit more modest, a little less for certain that you're going to score, have more assists than any first year player in history, and be in the race for the MVP and the Rookie of the Year at the same time. You said you've expected to compete for minutes when you come in. I think that's the safe rookie answer. It's always it's the good one, but I have to assume at this point, it's gone a little bit past maybe your assumptions as you came in on draft night. Or am I wrong?
No, 100%. I mean, I came in like wanting to make an impact. I was like, that's the bottom line for me. I want to come in. I want to make an impact on any team that I'm on. But did I think it was going to go this far? I feel like I came in with not really that many expectations. I was like, I just want to work. We're going to see what happens from here. I'm going to control what I can control, which sounds corny and super basic for any athlete to say, but I mean, it's true. That's kind of like the mindset that I was going into it with. And I feel like just focusing on what I can control has really brought me to this level, I guess.
What surprised you the most talk about rote questions? What surprised you the most as you've made the jump from Clemson to the Spirit? Like as far as Clemson's a good program. You made it you made it as far as you made it. There, you had success at both levels. But what's been the most surprising thing? Obviously, I think physical intensity is one that people always talk about, and speed of the game.
I was literally just about to say that.
I stole it from you. I shouldn't have done that. That was bad interviewing.
No, when I first came in, I feel like the players that move to the league from college, obviously you're the top, level when it comes to physical intensity in the college game. But when you come here, it's like a million of those players on the field at the same time. So it like bumps up that level times 10. But after the first preseason scrimmages, I feel like
the secret preseason scrimmages that no one saw.
Secret preseason scrimmages. I feel like I was able to get a hold of that because I feel like that is an attribute that I have in my game is just like physicality and grit. So I was able to get a hold of that. But honestly, just like focusing on the little things, like anything to like shave down time and receiving the ball or stuff like just super small details that make such a big difference on the field. I feel like you could kind of get away with that stuff in college, like not focusing on like body shape when receiving a ball and stuff like that because you're naturally more athletic than the girls around you. But here, like you can't really, like you have to focus on those little factors.
It's like going from school where you're the valedictorian and then you go to the next level and everyone's the valedictorian.
Yeah, everyone's the valedictorian. No, literally, that's how it is.
Well, I think it's the really interesting scenario for American college players, right? Like in any other sport, there's no like the NBA. There's not like a seasoning period. You go from the frying pan to the fire. Mm-hmm. And in this particular case, the fire is the most competitive and best league in the world in the sport. Where that's not the case. I mean, that's not the case in other places. I think so. It's I think a lot of players get hit with that realization. Every player I've always talked to, physicality is one, but everyone else always says like, the time I have to make a decision with the ball is like cut in a quarter. And you talked about body shape and receiving. That's it. That's part of it, right? It's like being able to, where do you want the ball to go as it takes your first touch in it, so it puts you in a position to make your next pass or your next move.
Yes.
Don't have to do that all the time. That's a pro level thing you have to think about. Yeah. Speaking of sort of that adjustment, you've entered the hot part of DC summer. We talked about this already. This is not new to you. You are built for this. But rookies usually talk about how they hit a wall in July and August because of the difference in the duration of college season versus the pro season, multi-week games, all the other things. How is your body feeling so far as you're getting into the meat right in the middle of the season there? And plus you're going to go.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't really have like that break or anything because we just go straight into it. But, yeah, I mean, so far, so good, knock on wood. But, yeah, I mean, for sure that multi-game week, that was tough. I mean, being on the road for 3 games in a row, that kind of took a toll. But I feel like the spirit, our program in general is very good at looking after players and coming up to us individually and being like, hey, what do you need? Like, what do you think's best for you? So I feel like kind of staying on top of that, like, my mental, physical well-being has been like a key factor in that. And I mean, that could be another thing that I've really honed in on since being in the league is like my recovery, not just when I'm feeling something, but being like more proactive with it, I guess, so that I don't hit rock bottom, like physically, more proactive with everything.
I think that's also got to be really influenced by the fact that you guys have Dawn Scott and her team. I've not gotten the chance to talk to a lot of players from other teams around the league. And, my understanding is that the Spirit have invested in a way that other teams maybe are now trying to catch up to and are trying to like say, all right, we got to at least keep up with the Spirit or try. But all the players that I spoke to from like sort of, there's just like specific tailored plans and reactivity and questions that, like you mentioned, questions that get asked to players here that maybe don't get asked around the league. That's gotta be helpful. And it also probably, is there like a sports psychology component? Is there someone on the staff that works that side of the mental side of it?
For sure. David. Yeah. He does like our mental, like mindfulness, stuff like that. Really helpful.
I think I remember talking to Ashley Hatch a couple years ago, and she is all about that. And then after that, I had started asking players subsequently, and this is before this. The Spirit did not always have a David. That is a new role that the team has got now. That used to have to be like privately funded by the players, so it's good that that's now there. But I don't imagine that was something that Clemson had. That was probably something or maybe it was. I don't want to.
I will say, Clemson was a program that did have like a lot of resources. Like they are kind of like a step ahead when it comes to that stuff.
Sure.
But like having the continuation of that into the Spirit has been amazing for me personally, and I feel like the transition from Clemson to the Spirit now, it's been really helpful having those resources plus some at the Spirit. Like they take care of us so well. Yeah.
I want to take this as a moment to not feel like I've insulted Clemson in any way. That certainly the tier. You're not coming from where I went to. You're not coming from Christopher Newport University. You're not coming from a D2 D3 program. You're coming from Clemson. Yeah. So I want to make sure that all of the Clemson fans who are listening, and you, I don't want to disrespect that program. You have been written in the 11 in a Sharpie basically since you started, which is awesome. You now have Jonah and Raldis coming in. Normally, new coaches give people anxiety, right? You get a new 100% requirement to prove yourself. In this case, the coaches have been in constant communication throughout, so you're not necessarily in that dynamic. But what is the new? He came this week. He had his introduction press conference on Tuesday, I think it was. But he's been around maybe the training pitch a little bit longer, not very much longer. What has that been like? What's that transition like? And what are the players sort of saying about? He said no big changes. He wants to just see things continue as they are. But what's your feelings as this change happens mid-season?
I mean, I feel pretty good about it. His transition so far has been pretty smooth. I mean, he kind of came in, fit right in with like the personality, the vibes of the team. I mean, he's a very friendly guy and he's a great coach. And I think the team's just excited based on his like track record and experience and everything. So yeah, we're excited to see where that all takes us. But him coming in and being like, I don't want to like mix up anything crazy because we've been doing so well. I mean, that also gives us confidence because we're like, We're doing the right things right now.
I'm not sure, but I am pretty certain this is the best vibes of any coaching change in a midseason that's ever happened in any sport at any time, because typically the team is not in near first place or third place, second place. And the interim head coach usually isn't staying on. I'm going to talk about him really quick. Adrian sort of comes in. Obviously, he is no slouch. He was a head coach in Spain. This is not new to him. It's not like he came out of nowhere and helped lead the team to where they're at. But also, I get a lot of questions from listeners like, how could you do this? He's going to go to be an assistant coach now. I assume there's other teams that are going to sniff around. He's had a really great opportunity to showcase his ability to lead and to make adjustments and to develop players. I want to give you an opportunity to sing his praises a little bit, because I think as the transition happens,
Adrian, I think, has been so great for us. I mean, and he's been so supportive with like this coaching transition and everything, but he's been so great. I mean, even since preseason, I feel like you can just see it in our improvement in games. Like from that first game to what we're doing now, it's insane. Just the complete changes that we've made and how quickly we've been able to improve over the course of this past 6 months. And it kind of makes me think like, where are we going to be at the end of the season if we have improved this quickly, like under his direction, I guess. But yeah, he's been great for us. And we also just all get along so well. He's a great guy, like aside from being a coach, like good people. And I feel like the Spirit really focuses on that, is bringing good people into the staff as well.
Jonah arrives into a Spirit team now that's near the top of the table, and from everyone around the team's statements, both in the media and sort of privately, is that the team is not at its final form yet. Where you are in the table is you're near the top, but like there's so much more to go. What have you been most impressed with by the team's performance? You kind of just talked about it, sort of the growth that's happened, but where do you think the biggest strides need to be made? I have my own take, but I'd love to hear your inside the team, sort of like what's been the biggest surprise in a positive, and what's been this area like, all right, we really got to figure this part out if we really want to achieve what we want to achieve by the end of the season.
The biggest surprise, how quickly we are able to make changes and how adaptable we are based on the game. I think when it comes to taking game plans and adapting to it, we're able to just do that immediately. But I think something for us to work on, and this kind of goes into how long our season is just consistency in that. Like, it's so easy for the first half of the season to be like, yeah, top of the table, like we're going at it, we can make these changes, we're fine. And then the second 6 months hits, and I feel like just that consistency in the second half of the season is going to make or break us. But I have full faith in us. I think we have a great group. You know, we're rowdy. I think we got it. But I mean, I'm excited.
You've been pressed into duty into a number of positions already so far in this season, and it's nothing new for your career. That's not a surprise for you. Versatility sometimes seems like it's a blessing and sometimes a curse, depending on the player, depending on their sort of preferences. It's good because it keeps you on the field, but you're already on the field. But it's just another added benefit for you, I assume, for any coach that has you. I assume there's a place where you're most comfortable, but because of depth issues and injuries that have occurred, do you get a lot of time training at fullback, or are you basically like, I'm going to practice where I'm likely to play, and if I happen to press into service, I'll be fine. I'll just wing it. Or do you get time there to prepare?
Honestly, I mean, I've gotten like maybe a couple reps at practice in fullback, like not even because we were planning for that to happen. It was mostly just like numbers, and someone needed to play fullback, and they're like, all right, Hal, get back there. Like, you can defend, you're fine. But no, that was leading up to that game. I didn't know that I would be going back there or had much practice. But yeah, I mean, I'm willing to step in wherever I can to help the team. And if that's fullback, I'll do it in fullback. But yeah.
I feel like you should maybe, as Jonah gets here, be like, listen, this has happened before now. So just maybe once every 15 reps, like, all right, you're the emergency Swiss Army knife in this case. Because I feel like I would panic. I would particularly in the middle of a game, I would be like, just a little bit of prep would have been good. Just a little ease.
I mean, I've had to, in the Portland game, I had to jump in too.
Yep.
So it's not like it was completely unusual. Like, I didn't expect it. Like, as soon as Gabby went down, I was like, oh, there's a possibility here. And then he was like, Hal, get back there. And I was like, okay, yeah.
Of course.
Going back there. Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah.
2 more questions. I thank you for your time. I think we said 10, but I think good interviews always tend to go longer than you think.
All good.
Listener Lotus said, you talked about coffee and your deep love of it in a video on the Spirit YouTube.
Yes.
They want to know if you have any places you want to shout out in DC, or this is my addition to the question, would you rather keep them secret so they don't get too crowded and you don't have to wait a long time for your coffee?
No, I gotta give them some love. I think I gotta give them some love. Mine's more so in Virginia area, but King Street Coffee in Leesburg, and then Goose Cup as well. Those are 2 places that I go quite often that I really like. So shout out to them.
I just heard about this week. I forget what the context was, but it was talking about how there are NBA teams where they drink cappuccino before they play. Mm-hmm. Just because caffeine doesn't actually dehydrate you. The concept is that coffee dehydrates you, but actually it doesn't. Yeah. Are you that into coffee? Or is this like a pregame thing, or is this just like your morning?
I have to have it on game days because it's just like a habit. I do it every day, so I gotta have my game day coffee. Yeah.
I think if you do it every day, it would be weird to think, okay, and the thing where I have to be have my most mental acuity, I'm gonna go no caffeine. That day.
Let's switch it up.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's throw the cards up in the air. Yeah. I think, all right, so I want to finish with this one. You talked about how great it was and wild it was to be Andi Sullivan's midfield partner after that first goal. Now that you're a half season in and some of the shock and novelty probably a little bit has worn off now that you've done it enough, what's been the best part of that partnership? And I want to say, Andi talked you up big time before the first game of the season even started. The typical, who should we look out for? And it was you. You were the one player like, this is the one. So before you answer that, I just wanted you to have that.
Oh, first of all, that's very nice of her. Love Andi. Second of all, I just love playing next to her. I mean, the experience that she brings. She honestly, I'm a very high energy player. She kind of calms me down. I feel like with her presence, she's just such a great leader. She has such a great head on her shoulders. I mean, on and off the field, she's definitely someone that I look up to. But yeah, I think we have a great partnership in the midfield, and we've only been playing together for, half a season now. So I can't wait to see where that partnership goes. But yeah, she's awesome to play next to. I mean, we're always having to communicate because we're so close together on the field, and she's very helpful in that aspect as well.
I'm sure she's been happy because the team has, not talking about any other midfielders over the years, but the team has been looking for a good partner for her for a couple seasons. One that they could basically know for sure this is the twosome that we want. And I think I'm sure she's really happy now that she feels like she's got it. She's finally got what she was looking for.
Yeah.
Hal, thank you so much for joining us. I want to make sure that I give people a chance to follow you on social media. I also know you have a TikTok, which I think maybe is
I
your most
do.
active.
Those
So
are where
let's
coffee
get the
reviews
usernames
are.
out. Right.
Yeah. My Hal Hirsch. Just HalHershH. Those are where all my coffee reviews are on TikTok. My Instagram's the same. Not a big Twitter girl, but if
Yeah, that's where we
you're
live,
active
and
on
it's
Twitter.
nerdy. I don't. None
Yeah.
of the players are active
Yeah,
on
I'm not that much of a
Instagram,
Twitter
and
girl.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
really where it's at anymore. Anyway, Hal, thank you so much for joining us. Great luck to you this weekend, and have fun in Paris, and be cautiously intense for them for the whole tournament.
For sure. Cautiously intense. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.